There's no public comment. Is to sort through the feedback from the last meeting on parking and make some determinations on what our recommendations will be to council for their parking workshop on Wednesday. Brian, I believe, has a presentation or a.
For an update, yeah.
Yep, an
I'll
update.
run quick through it because I think the goal is really to hear from you all.
Let's go. And just so you guys know, we don't talk about anything but like this meeting is for parking. It was special call for that and we cannot add stuff to the, I don't think we can add stuff to the agenda, but that is not our intention today. So let's stick to the subject at hand, get it all sorted out, get in, get out. Brian, go.
Thanks, Carol. So Jamie, you want to stomp through to maybe the second or third slide? So we did have a question about citations during the meeting last time, so I want to make sure to have an update on that information. You can see to date by month, the total number of citations, those that were actual cost citations, so those that weren't a warning, appeals approved and appeals rejected to this point. So on average, for the first 4 months, we've written about 729 citations, only on average 70 per month are actual fees. So the rest of those are warnings. So about 90% of the tickets we've written so far is warning tickets. Hopefully the educational aspects are working of doing a warning first approach. And if you hear anything out there about, I didn't receive a warning, please direct them to us so we can talk through.
That would have been great to know at that meeting.
Yeah, our system.
That's perfect though.
Very important that we're giving people a warning the first time, not just sitting them with a citation. And they're only generating about $3,000 in revenue per month. Really, the goal is not to make revenue off citations, it's to educate. And we're collecting about 64% of it at this point. You may hear things going forward about folks who start getting towed if they're not paying their tickets. So that might be coming up at some point if we get habitual.
So that says total citations, that's the ones, and then the actual where they pay fines is the next one.
That's correct.
Okay, just checking, thanks.
So what was the strategy with that? Was that like
The first time the plate comes through, we cleared the system essentially. And the first time that plate shows up, you could be from Alaska or Texas or wherever. The first time the plate shows up here, it's a warning first.
So everyone received a warning first. So the only
That's right.
actual citation we plugged in are people that
Multiple violations. That's right. And we see the occasion where the appeals are being granted. So we have people who are appealing the ticket saying, hey, I just missed one number on my tag, which is an honest mistake, and those will be granted for the appeals process. Sorry, Jamie. Lou, could you go to the next slide for me? Is that possible?
Sorry.
You're good.
See if I can do that. I can't.
Brian, as we go along, would you like us to interject during your presentation? Do you want us to wait?
So the next part, I'll just go through real quick and then I'll turn it over to the floor.
Got it.
How do you go to the next slide? Sorry.
Thank you, Jamie. So we wanted to make sure we hit what we heard in the room in a summarical format. So when we talk to city council and the high points, business is hurting. We heard parking is a factor. It's impacting my customer base. We also heard we know there are other economic factors impacting us also from a business community, but parking is a stressor right now and it's not the best time. Most agree that employees should not be parking on Main Street. We have heard from some that disagree with that approach. First hour free, first half hour free is confusing because it's really a grace period, not just you get it for free and you still need to check in at the kiosk or on the app. We've heard for customers, it's really more of a feeling that's unpleasant rather than paying $2. I think Barbecue's public comments summarize that pretty well. It's not the leisurely feel anymore. People are stressed. It's a stressful system and people aren't used to it. Finding a balance between turnover of parking spaces to generate business versus the leisurely feel of strolling Main Street. We've heard that. We've heard that we need to make payment easier. Some suggestions from volunteer ambassadors and some store owners have taken on an adopt a kiosk approach. We've heard about competition with the malls and online ordering. We've heard it's hurting first dinner seating based on enforcement hours going to 7 p.m. We've heard it's hurting breakfast because that's the first thing people are going to cut, and economic hardship times. We heard it's just a lot at once. We've heard it's not the most age-friendly system. We've heard that some businesses will go under. We've heard that there's some concern for safety for employees walking exterior to the district. And we've heard about the technical errors, like someone won't be able to extend their time and issues with scanning a ticket or a parking deck pass or things like that. So that's what we've heard. And I want to move into, I think we can come back to this. If you all want more included, we can add more. But I think we took pretty good notes. I think we got a lot of what was said in the room. We can jump to the next slide, Jamie, just to talk through where I'd want to focus our time today on our potential options for improving the system. So this has changed a little bit from last time. We have our short term, that's our, within the first 3 months approach, and our long term, probably greater than 1 year type solutions that we need to see more data to operate off of. So these are what we would come with staff and say, this is what we think we could do right out of the gate and how we could pivot. One would be removing the 30-minute zones. We've heard they're confusing. People don't know you got to check in. Just make it all the 5-hour time limit. Make it simple. When you're on Main Street, whatever space you're in, all the rules are the same. We heard that. We've heard make ADA spaces free. I think really today we'd love some concise guidance from you all on what you would like to do there. That's an easy on-off switch for us as the city. And I think we'd love to have something to bring to city council that says, yes, we do want to make ADA free. We do recognize, though, that will open up the opportunity for an ADA employee to park in front of their store all day and take up the space. Because with ADA, again, we can't regulate time, but we can charge. More signage and kiosks. I think our approach here would be if you see something specific, tell us and let us go out and address it. I haven't heard a ton of like, there's no way you can find these, or they're overpopulating the corners. It's too much clutter. I think we've got some balance there. So really in specific instances, we're just looking for advice on that one. If you have them, bring them to us. That's probably less of a city council recommendation overall. Aggressive marketing strategy, getting back out there and beating the bushes on, you have free parking options 1 block away. Here's where you can park. Here's how to pay, and here's the permits that are available. We can do that right out of the gate if this board wants us to kind of get back out there with this information and educate the public. We have figured out parking validation. So I think we're working on a couple of test cases for a couple of businesses that we would be working through for validation options, and then broadening that reach to most folks downtown. Expanding the count on the permits. This is kind of an easy button for us. We do 2 cars per permit right now. We could go to 3 or 4 cars per permit. That's a easy solution if a business is buying for their employees. Essentially, you get 4 more employees on 1 single permit. They just can't be there at the same time. And then lastly, probably the biggest, most resounding, might have a monetary impact, but in reality, probably the psychology of how it impacts the customer is going to play out in favor for us from a monetary perspective, is the pay by a lesser increment than 1 hour. So pay by 30 minutes is probably where we would start. If y'all are very strongly in favor of pay by 15 minutes, we'd really like to hear that today. And that would be our first short term. And then just to quickly summarize the long term would be enforcement hours. Some of the things that we heard is we don't like it going to 7 p.m. How much could maybe we supplement with our Main Street MSD tax to shave off those enforcement hours on Main Street and make it less impactful on the dinner service? So essentially going to 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. Would really like to hear more of your thoughts on that. And if there is a willingness to offset potential revenue losses. A resident discount permit, again, we really need to see where the system lands, because if we cut off our nose, we'll spite our face. Essentially, we'll have to come back and raise property taxes if we don't generate the revenue by giving a discount. One piece of information to take in with this, just thinking through a permit for Main Street to meet the revenue demand. So each space is $6,020 a year in revenue, essentially at 100% occupancy. So we need to generate at least 36% to meet our revenue model. That would equate to $180 per month for a Main Street permit, monthly permit. So you would have.
Say that statement again.
Yeah. So start from kind of the beginning.
Or well, just what each space,
Yeah, so Main Street's value per space at 100% occupancy at our current rates is $6,020 per space
per year,
per year.
per year.
Is that on us?
I don't have that on the slide. To generate what we need 36% occupancy. So like to sell us a Main Street space essentially, that would equate to $180 per month. For a resident to say, I want to be able to park on Main, I don't want to worry about anything. You pay $180 per month, you can just come to Main Street whenever you want and do whatever business you have. Again, you got the other shopping options of $25 per month in Dogwood, $60 per month in Azalea, Spruce, Maple, or Apple, and $80 per month in the Deck. So this would make sense from a also market standpoint of the selling your best product at the best rate. Because we don't want to make it so affordable that all of a sudden all the employees have bought Main Street permits and are all over Main Street. So you also have that kind of consideration when considering that one.
Is Dogwood completely sold out?
No, so we sold it out, but I think it still has capacity. So it's sitting, I'd say 70% full right now at peak time. So we could probably sell another 25 at least permits for that lot. So that's a really good option right now and something I'm gonna really, I think we should be pushing for employees. Another long-term consideration is making the avenues a different rate. We've also heard a little pushback on that that would also make things more confusing because you got a whole nother zone now that you have to figure out. Am I in zone 70216 or 70217? You know, if there was another zone created for the avenues. Making the avenues free was suggested. That's definitely needs to be a long-term monetary consideration. Lowering the rates, again, pretty substantial impact there. We're just right now that first quarter meeting our revenue model by just a little bit. So we can't just cut 50 cents out of there. That's 3/4 of our revenue or a quarter of our revenue gone essentially. So we would not make our model. And then also we talked about South End permits as a long-term solution for employees as well. So I'm going to pause at this point, Jamie, and turn it over to the floor and the committee for questions, things we missed, other things you want to know, and hopefully direction on some of these, especially short-term solution items.
Can I, today by chance, I thought I would experiment because I said at the last meeting, as a local, I don't park in the paid parking because I know a block off. So today my husband and I decided to come downtown to go walk around and we were parking on Washington and I said, we need to figure this out. Let's see what's going on. So we did the side street and we did the Park Mobile and it says $2. The first thing that confused us is it says, okay, you're staying for an hour, it's $2. So why we didn't understand even talking about free parking because yesterday I also fill in at a friend's retail business and have a lot of people come through with Art Mob. I run this shop once in a while. And people came in and said, why is the first hour free? I did 2 hours and I got charged $4. So believe it or not, you probably don't want to hear this. I think you should eliminate the free parking part of parking totally. So at least people know it's paid parking. I got to pay to park here.
We did receive a suggestion that how much money would you recoup taking that away? And can you put that into maybe lowering rates or one of these other long-term options?
Right.
Which I think is a good, I really need to dive deep into the numbers to figure that one out. I've not gone that deep on figuring out how many people just got the free time, because that would be new revenue that you could then trade off for something like lowering rates. We did hear that from the Chamber of Commerce. We did talk with them in between our last meeting and this meeting.
And then, you know, of course, we went for a walk and I had the timer on. If I'm going to be back by an hour, I can only, but that, I mean, I planned for that. I understood that. But the idea was if I'm out and I realize I want to walk further, I think 15-minute increments would be fabulous. But I'm just, you know, I mean, if you don't want 15, you just go for 30 for an hour or whatever. But yesterday or Saturday was when I had a lot of people. I was working at Art Mob. And some people say, can we park here? How does it work? The other thing was they didn't know if they had to go to one specific kiosk versus another. So it says, you know, parking kiosk, you might want little arrows on so they go either way. But many people were, that were local, didn't stop to think that right there, at Art Mob especially, which is a block off Main Street, I walked them outside. I said, see right there?
It's free parking.
It's free parking. Well, they didn't, people don't come in there because don't go into that free parking lot. They park elsewhere because they're gonna go downtown, but these were just some really recent things that I thought I'd bring up, so.
So I haven't used the kiosk, but as far as the app, so when I park downtown and I launch the app on my phone, it gives me the first option of set duration for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then once I click on 30 minutes, then the screen comes up, it says first 30 minutes
30 minutes.
are free, and you actually check out with your license plate number, but you're not, it's explained to you that you're gonna, if you set your
Right.
donation for 30, you're not gonna be charged anything for
Correct,
30
yeah.
minutes. And so I see your point about like
Didn't
moving
say
that.
An hour.
Yeah.
Where's
Once
the
you set
one-
it for an hour, it's like you're getting $2.
Yeah, it says.
Right, if you set it, so then it's like this whole learning curve thing. I mean, I'm making deliveries downtown where I'm parking in spaces and utilizing that option because there's loading zones aren't available. So I know that's not a huge factor here, you know what I mean? But it is a factor that, you know, for folks that are making quick trips downtown.
Or even businesses that are not retail. My clients don't come in for 2 hours.
Yeah.
They come in for 15, 20 minutes,
Right.
sign paperwork and leave. So 30-minute free parking is great for them.
And once they learn that and they know how to do it
That's
longer
30.
times, then it's easy, you know?
It's not like
that, once you pass that 30 minutes, you get hit for the hour, so it's not.
Right.
Where if we had it 30 minutes, and then you pay $1 for the second 30 minutes, I think it would be more realistic for people understanding that time period is grace.
Mhm.
Is there an hour free
It's titled
parking?
that.
Only
We do keep
an
that,
hour in there?
because I know a lot of people that come in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coffee shop, I have a ton of clients that now are more willing to meet in my office because they know, and because I've educated them,
Right.
that you can stop in and sign paperwork. And there's places to park now where they don't feel like they have to, like, hey, I'm gonna park 2 blocks away and I'm gonna have to walk by all these cars that I know have been parked there for 5 hours today.
Well,
So the rotation on the 30 minutes is helpful.
I noticed on the time limit on the side streets, whatever, was it 3 hours before? And now there's a little sticker on them that just says time limit, but it doesn't have a number.
It's 5 hours. It was supposed to be.
Yeah.
No time limit, and then there was a discovery.
So you need a new,
It had to be, there is stickers that will be replacing that unless we have changes that are a result of this.
What were we talking about?
side streets are 5 hour limit.
All of it.
It's all 5-hour time.
What about,
For the garage
And the signs just say time limit.
and
They don't say 5-hour times.
but the lots have a 5 hour limit.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I thought.
$10 daily max.
$10 daily max.
$10 park there all day long.
parking garage has
Parking garage is, was it $20 daily maximum?
$10 daily.
$10 daily
max.
maximum.
basically you pay for 5 hours anywhere and then you can, well, you have to move on the side streets, but in the parking
Yeah.
garage, you can stay all day.
Yeah, it resets at like 5 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So if you go over, then it restarts as a new day.
And the other thing I was just trying to figure out, so, because when I see someone wandering around town and they look confused, it's just in my nature. What do you need? Can I help you? But John and I paid online, it says an hour. So we're wandering around and then we were trying to figure out, do we have to tell it? We left, it was kind of a funny reaction. Okay, let's watch it tick down, see if anyone shows up. I mean, really, how does it know? But when you leave, it would only know if one of the ladies who's walking around sees a car and checks, so you've only paid an hour.
We
So
only know if
you
you're still
wanna
there over
understand
time.
That too. If you leave during your time, have a nice day. Don't worry about it. I
Right.
thought it was kind of like, do I have to check out of here? I just figured I would. try.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the app. I've used it in other towns, but since people ask those questions and every merchant who has businesses like you did, you said, Jared, if they knew all that and their employees knew that to help people out, it just adds to the friendliness of this town.
I think the one educational piece I think we're gonna push really hard too is if you want to have that leisurely approach to downtown, right? You're not worried about waiting on your time. The immediate free parking on Church is a really good option, but really the parking deck, if you're willing to pay $10 to stay for the day, which I think a lot of travelers would going to somewhere, that's where you should go. You should go to the parking deck, go in, take your ticket, and you don't have to worry, about the time running out or getting notices about your time running out. That is the easiest leisurely approach to.
Well, and I think for tourists, that's good because they do want to walk up and down the street, the tourists. I mean, I know locals
Yeah.
have a purpose. A lot of times they only need to be there.
I mean, I think it's really important when we're considering changes, adjustments, is that to just, verbalize that we're trying to accommodate different folks and how people use downtown. And that there are people that want to park downtown and just stroll for the day. And there's lots of people that have business downtown and they want to be in and out. So I think that, any changes that we're making to the parking or any suggestions for changes, we're considering trying to accommodate as many people as possible. And I think that, especially from a public standpoint, to like communicate that to the public that, we've got 3 solid months of data under our belt, which is nothing.
Nothing.
That's a blip, you know what I mean? And a lot of this has been
Well,
reactionary.
that's a great point, because there was 2 businesses that I really didn't think about. And one of them brought to my attention, were a couple businesses on Main Street that when you buy a ticket to go in there, it's a full day ticket. So a lot of customers would come in, spend time, leave, go get lunch, come back again. And now they're feeling they're seeing a slight dip, and they're hearing a lot from their customers that, they're paying for a full day ticket, but they're not getting the full value out of it
Well,
because they're worrying about. their parking.
in that particular
That's another
case,
thing that we should consider, like I'm saying, that we gotta consider everyone
Yeah.
that's coming downtown.
in that case, it'd be great to tell them 1 block over, it's free, but nobody likes to walk.
So
One
the,
block, I
I
know.
don't necessarily think of that. I think that,
Nobody wants to.
when you're going to these all day places, the ticket entry price is not a few dollars.
Yeah, that's why.
A significant amount, and then to add another $10 on top of that, for young families, that's a lot of money.
The other thing and I'm sorry, I'll quit talking, but the resident discount, are you talking about only in the city limits? Because if you do offer something like that, I don't live in the city limits. I'm downtown. I mean, there's a lot of us.
That's the big challenge with that as well logistically that's why a permit is much easier because you can
Well,
sell a permit to a plate and that's simple. But if we did you can come in and buy, 20 hours worth of parking at a discounted rate at the customer service window, you have to show us your water bill or something and we have to verify you are the water bill
just a
holder.
permit, you could sell that to,
We could sell the permit to anybody. I mean,
but
I think if anybody wants to pay $250 for a free-for-all permit,
right,
let them.
that's,
But basically, this town in the summer is tourist oriented. Tourists like to walk. They've never been here. So they like to spend the day, have dinner, have lunch, whatever.
Yep.
So that's a different thing. Locals run in, run out unless they have visitors. Then if they have visitors, then they stroll to show the visitors. So that's the difference. Basically now, people want to go from one end to the other and take advantage of this town, which is always what it's been.
So we obviously need a aggressive marketing campaign. I think that's pretty much a no-brainer. I'm not sure council even needs to vote on that or to suggest that. I think we can do that. Would that come from our downtown office? How can we accomplish that? Do we need to set aside money in the budget? Do we need to ask for a little supplement money? How do we need to accomplish that? And then can we do a temporary subcommittee to do that? Because I think we're looking at education for the businesses on how to educate their customers, where the free parking is, kiosk adoption, how to pay, and how the permits work, which we kind of accomplished, but not. But what that's going to take is a handful of us sitting in a room, or Jamie writing out that the educational piece that you already have. It's just more staff time and legwork. That's what it's going to take to do that. Also included in that would be the signage. I think what that's going to require is Lou and I were on the phone the other day, and the only way I could really get a good feel for it was to stand in front of the signs and the kiosks and walk from different angles up and see what it actually looked like. Like we can't do that from this right now, nor can we do that from a room as a smaller group. So if that kind of thing is something, I mean, I think we can do that for sure. How do we need to accomplish that?
So marketing, we've got money in the budget, so our comms department will take lead, work with downtown. We do want council's nod on it. I think it's probably a yes nod, right?
Right.
I don't want to speak for them, but I do want their approval because they're going to take the heat, right? We're going to put this out there and then someone's going to put it on. Did you see this campaign on the Weather Channel, my Weather Channel app? They're trying to give me free parking and then it will blow up and there'll be 300 comments, right? But they're the ones that are going to have to hear it. So we got to make sure they're prepped for when we put this out there. And if we're having an aggressive campaign, it's going to have people talking and there's a lot of naysayers in the social media world.
Well,
Can I ask the question?
yeah,
The whole thing that I've heard is it's complicated, it's goofed up and all that. Without creating more stuff, is there a way to use what you already have and just make it simpler? It's a computer.
I think this review would do that because I was actually thinking,
And if it, instead of, we're talking about educate, honestly, if it was simple to use, you shouldn't have to educate people. If you made it to where you didn't mislead them, not that you misled them. I thought I was getting a free hour parking today, but it cost me $3 to leave the garage. But if it was just 10-minute increments, 15-minute increments, 10-minute increments is this much money at a time. Somebody can do the math and say, okay, I'm gonna put $10 in there, or I'm gonna be here for 10 minutes or 20 minutes and it's gonna go. But all of that, I think, could be done in the computer where it does it simply without, the mix and matching and all this kind of stuff that we're doing. And yes, there should be signs saying, you got to use this kiosk if you're on this end of the block or this kiosk if you're on that end of the block. But rather than complicating it more, can what you already have be made to use simpler?
well,
So that's what we've got. So all of those are policy decisions for it. So all of those, like the increments and everything, that's what we've got to figure out on what we want to recommend today, because then that's the ease of use for it. So that's what we need, like the 30-minute increments. I also agree that would make things more logical for people, but there is a financial impact for that. The 30 minutes free versus not is another one. So I think what the focus of what we need to figure out is on the policy side of things, because then we can take the marketing based off of what.
And
Those changes.
that's been our goal for all of this, Chris, is ease of use and the feeling, I think sums up everything the best.
and so the answer is yes. So what I was trying to do was just like, can we talk about the marketing thing? Agree, we probably need that, or we could make a few changes and maybe put the marketing back. Like, do we need that? If we make a few changes, will we need it? Maybe, maybe not. But like on the kiosk screen itself, is that easy to change? This part?
Yeah, that's very simple.
Okay, but that is like, we need to like stand in front of it and do it repeatedly. And it takes somebody standing in front of it doing it.
I think that goes to your point. I mean, if we have the app and it pops up, can we have a screen that gives like basic instructions? You can pay at any kiosk. You can.
It has that.
The QR code is this big. On one side of the kiosks, the QR code to get people to download the app should be this big instead of repeating the same information on both sides. Like you don't barely even see the QR code. That's the easiest way to do it, especially for our locals. But this is like getting into the weeds with like what the marketing or strategy would be. I think the things we need to talk about today are the 30-minute zones, the increments for sure. I'm looking at this list here. I mean, those are the things I want to talk about next.
Well, can I ask just one, I really think, one, you do need to, if you're gonna do more marketing, one sense at the beginning that we didn't just start this yesterday. This has been going on for a long time. We're working on, making it work better for everyone, but it's also brand new. And anytime something brand new comes to a community that's not familiar with it, there's this huge adjustment period where everybody,
Disagree. I think there's a sociology of usage that at this point, it needs to be, this is what it is and this is what.
okay, well then don't put that statement in there.
Because it muddies the water, right? Because then people want to have an opinion. And
Yeah.
there's only so many opinions that can happen at this point.
Yeah,
And so it needs.
I only meant.
We had this conversation in this room a million times. What about pay by half an hour, 15 minutes? We've talked about this for years.
No, I
Exactly
was
his word.
just thinking, I know they want to do some marketing, but I definitely think all the downtown businesses would help if they could,
There is marketing material that's been created.
no, if they can just answer the question for people who come.
That would be great. What about the pay by half an hour and 15 minutes?
Do we know what?
So why don't we do this? I mean, the whole point of this meeting, the takeaway is that we need to come up with recommendations for council for Wednesday, correct?
What about half an hour increments?
I mean, it's down to 15 or 30 minutes,
Just go through the list.
you know?
Yeah, just start at the top. Let's just go right down, one by one.
Local on Main Street.
Okay, let the
Did they?
person talk at a time.
Whatever.
Okay, so let's say, we're going through the list. First thing, 30-minute zones, not 30-minute increments. What are, so we've already heard some on the 30-minute zones. You think that's important? No, wait.
Ditch them, remove.
30-minute, and when we're talking about 30-minute zones, we're talking about the parallel spaces that are on Main
Yeah.
Street. That's what this specific.
Make all that parking the same.
Make all of those the 5-hour limit. Are we,
So
Everybody.
let's take a motion,
No, just.
a motion.
I got it. I'll just, I like the hand raise. That's easy. I think.
Okay.
I say, let's get rid of them.
Yep.
okay.
That appeared to be the
Okay.
majority.
The next one, ADA spaces free. So this is talking about the handicap spaces that are on Main Street.
Main Street.
And in the lots as well. The garage is always gonna be paid because it's the only way it can operate. So the handicap spaces are no time limit, but they are an hourly rate, just as everywhere else is.
So they didn't have a time limit at all.
No, they're not legally, cannot have time limits. The handicap spaces previously, or there was no charging, so it didn't matter one way or another. Where there are issues are sometimes with our handicap or disabled people having issues with the app or the kiosks and messing around with them. On the other side of the hand, it is availability of parking for other handicapped people who may or may not be able to find a place if they're being taken up by another vehicle all day long. That's in a handicap space. So the question is specifically on the handicap spaces, do you want to continue to charge as we currently are or make those back to being no charge?
Can you limit the amount of free time? like
No,
3
no,
hours?
we
I would
cannot.
love to see it, no charge for him. My mother's 80 years old, she lived here all her life, and she won't go downtown. And she's handicapped, she's older. And I think that's a great gesture for this community and the elderly of this community.
I think there's the flip side of that coin, that there's elderly that come down and can't find a handicap parking space because people park there all day.
So, There are some
There
people,
are,
but I agree with you. I think they should be free, but we have to keep in mind, there are people that have stores on Main Street and live on Main Street, and they will park in that space 24/7. Then that's where the police have to police it. I mean.
There's not.
Can't do anything. Can't do anything to
So you mean to tell me, well, then put a time limit on the handicap space?
cannot, by state law, all right, let's go, by state law, you cannot put a time limit on a handicap space.
Let me say one more thing. So 1, we cannot do a time limit on handicap parking. 2, we cannot, any handicapped person with a handicap tag
Yeah,
would be able to park there. So it does not matter if they're shopping, if they're working. There is no way that the police can
they could park there all week if they want.
or not. They could park there the whole time. So those are the two,
That's,
those are the,
The question on what you just said.
Yeah.
We cannot put a time, limit, but we can charge by hour.
correct.
Could we have a grace period and then charge? Could there be like a 2-hour grace and then charge per hour? or a 3-hour grace.
That's
and
what I
then-
meant.
I think that's probably going to run into the same problems that we're already having with the 30-minute free.
There's a store nearby, and the guy who runs the store parks outside in the handicap all day, all night. At least if we had a grace, that person may park there, but he would have to move it.
His yellow truck.
I would be interested in what, and our legal opinion would be on our ability to regulate differently for handicapped individuals versus the regular on-street spaces.
But
We
that's,
have rules for regular on-street, but then we establish something different for limits on, I'll have to ask.
I agree with you that.
that's a
but at the
good
same
thought.
time,
That's what I thought when I said that.
Can we do it free in the lots, but not on the street?
It's the other way. Yeah.
Well, I like your idea of a grace period. Now, the ticket reader, this lady, she usually marks the tire, then she would chalk.
No, not anymore.
That's sophisticated. How do we do it?
It's, there's a license plate reader, and so they go through and it dings them when they're,
Well, then that seems easy enough. If you give that 2-hour grace period.
And I don't think we should call it a grace. I think because that got confused. It should be.
Actually make it free.
A few hours, and then after that, you have.
So you're talking
All
about,
right, so we got one option. Let's talk about the different options now. So we've heard a middle of the ground option, right? So we have keep them paid, follow the existing protocols as everything else. Can make them completely free on the surface lots and on street. And then we could do a 2-hour or 3-hour free period with then escalating fees in hour 4 or 5 to try to encourage turnover.
I think the recommendation should be,
So
as of
we're-
right now, to leave it with pursuing this option of the first 2 hours being free and how that.
Okay, so let's vote then on, so we'll say, make them free, leave them the way they are, or middle ground. We'll do that, those
Be
three.
what?
We'd have to,
2 hours.
3 hours free,
Do.
followed by payment. And then you'll have somebody who's happy because they couldn't go to
Well, they can-
the rest of their money. Yeah.
What would it cost them if you kept charging them like you would everybody else?
Same price.
It's the same price,
Which is what?
$2 an hour.
$2 an hour.
Yeah.
Okay. And handicap parking places are typically in more convenient places for people to get in and out and
Right.
around and stuff. And although, yes, you'd like to give a little bit of extra something to somebody in the situation we're in, I don't know that it's gonna not get back to exactly what we're fighting over right now. You know, free versus free, ain't free, grace period and all that. If we're trying to simplify things, it needs to be simplified across the board. And if it's a handicap parking place, it's $2 an hour. It's a regular parking place, it's $2 an hour. You're handicapped, you get to park here. No slopes, no steps, no whatever. If you're not, you park over there. I mean, this is something that's gonna take time to come about and make work. Because we've talked about parking for years. We've talked about a parking garage, we've talked about dogwood lots, we've talked about all of this stuff. And we've heard all these things. And the city now put in a parking garage. And they've also put meters, which I thought they were gonna be meters, put a quarter in. But that would be less confusing. But the thing is, the bottom line is the city is now in the parking business. They have to make enough money to pay for all of these things that they're doing. They have to make enough money to pay for the parking lady that, or person that runs up and down the street, the cars they bought and all this kind of stuff. So we're 3 months into this. It's all across the board. It's simple that everybody can start getting used to. Maybe later down the road, when they have a big surplus, that can become free parking or something like that. But I think it needs to be simple.
I have a business partner that I work with. She's on 2 canes, okay? She cannot physically get out. First of all, she has a flip phone, she can't use the kiosk. She's on 2 canes, and she has to park in a handicap. And she just thinks that to pay to park in a handicap is horrible.
Do you have are statistics around for cities in North Carolina that do charge or don't charge handicap? And has anyone done a?
Gas charge.
Most
that we asked charge.
It's
We had a mix.
It's part of
Yeah.
charging for handicap ever, anywhere.
When you guys put this together, I'm sure you used a model.
Yeah.
And that model that you use, do they charge?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, and I think here's the thing, in Hendersonville, we've got the tourists, then you got the natives. You're gonna make your money in the summer from the tourists, but the natives have got to live here year round. The older people, I think, should be able to come downtown and feel comfortable finding a spot to park. And that would be where I would co-sign on what this young man said earlier in terms of a 2-hour grace, free parking, to be technical, free parking. That's the best scenario unless you do it totally free and you never know who's gonna sit there for 5 or 10 hours.
What about handicapped residents coming in and applying for a permit at no charge?
It goes into the same problem though. I mean.
It'd have to be a
we
darn-
talked about this 3 years ago. It goes into the same problem that they're gonna take that spot all day.
Right, they still,
There's no time limit. So there has to be a reason to turn it over. And I understand, Carol, that there are, but you're talking about the 1%. You're not talking about the 90.
Surprised how many-
I'm not surprised. I'm downtown all day, every day.
Oh, my.
I'm not surprised that it's the 1 or 2% that are having trouble. And yes, they're gonna need to have someone help them with the kiosk. Give me a call. I will help that 1% every day I'm downtown. I will go out there and help them every day use that kiosk. And there's probably 20 business owners that.
How do you work? Okay.
Can I ask a question,
I'll give
Brian?
you my thoughts. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
game. I think there's plenty of people that would do that.
The complaints about handicap so far. You have a number.
I don't have a number off the top of my head. We could pull it and have,
Is it a? I'm wondering if they're organic and from a variety of avenues, or if they're all can be tied back to one
so,
specific.
I can-
give me that.
Yeah.
So we have one that is
Right.
very vocal.
Right,
But we do have a lot of complaints that come in on our public complaint form that are just generally against handicap people having to pay. The person came up from, what's the golf course down the mountain here in South Carolina, the Cliffs. Came up from the Cliffs. I'm never coming back again, that you should not charge handicapped people. That's the give and take we get from that.
You're gonna hear mostly from people that complain. You don't hear from the 89% that don't.
can we see where we are on the charge full, don't charge at all, and the middle ground? Can we just see where we are on that? Because I think we could
That'd
talk
be good.
about this all day. I think council will talk about it
But,
for a long time, and they still will have a very hard time arriving
and,
at
and
a decision.
before we move on though, just one, like, talked to Carol many times on this, and the issue for your person that you're talking about is not necessarily the paying, it's the kiosk and the phone and doing all of that. So having that 2-hour grace period is not going to solve that problem.
Definitely would, because she could park her car, get out of her car with 2 games,
Have to register.
know where she's going.
But she
Still have to log in case she's there.
Yeah.
Even if you get the free time, you have
Order to get there.
Yeah, see, my view on
Just don't
that is
show up
that
and-
people generally have spaces, have added expenses, canes, wheelchairs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, there,
Yeah.
yeah.
So she still has to log in. They have to do that regardless.
But how is she gonna log in on, when she's on 2 games?
These couple hours would give them a little more of a grace
Right.
where they wouldn't have, but you still have to log in every time you park.
Yeah, so that,
Unless you make it-
just to make it clear, that's not going to solve what the problem is that you specifically are talking about.
Well, have you seen
But
anybody
it can't
else
be-
here go up and?
We can't move on.
I think you should take,
Yeah,
take it down here. Like, see where everybody's heads at. on
Okay.
Yes,
So-
no.
So thumbs up if you do want to continue ADA spaces how they currently are charging. 1,
Charging?
Charging.
For the handicap spaces.
yes. 1, 2, but 1, 2,
So just charge like, or
5, 6, 7.
Charging.
Yes. Okay. If you would like to make them totally free, raise your hand.
Go with the middle ground.
Okay, so but no one wants to make them totally free. We're clear on that. Okay. And then to look at that middle ground of the 2
I
hours.
think the middle ground. should
Mark,
be-
Carol, okay.
That's the middle ground in Ground Spring?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 But keep in mind,
So
Like he said, you still gotta go to the kiosk, check in, do all of that stuff.
So citation rate. So let's,
Are we on citation rates dropping down to $35 or $25?
They did definitely drop.
That's,
I mean, yeah.
that's dropped.
Yeah.
Can we get a show of hands? Yes, yes to drop citation rates
How much are we dropping them?
to either $35 or $25.
I would go for 25.
Dropping citation rates, we want to drop them, I think.
Drop them,
Yes.
yeah.
How much?
25, like it's always been.
They used to be 25.
Why can't
That's what it's always.
25 people are used to that? 25.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be the capitalist in the room. Blue.
Can we do a second event higher, though?
So.
Yeah, we have a.
I wanna know,
scale.
we have paid parking because we need the money. We can't deny that. So is cutting fees in half gonna be detrimental?
Citations, no.
Citations, okay.
The
that's-
citations weren't part of the,
So
it's the,
citations are deterrents, not actually.
They bring in some income.
but we,
Oh, we're gonna have some, but we're already making way more than I thought we would make on
It
citations.
is count on tickets to be.
We really just want to educate people,
No, it's expensive.
so they actually feed the meter next time.
But the reason we got the parking garage was because everybody complained there was no parking, so.
No, but I mean.
Yes.
okay, okay, we're
Right.
not gonna talk about the.
Moving along.
Have it or not. Okay.
I think we've handled signage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it's.
Such an aggressive.
validation.
Yeah.
So.
Get the-
Dave's-
Yes.
yeah, lower parking.
parking.
That's what I saw 25.
I heard.
Okay.
25.
I think we can move on down to permit count. Okay, y'all.
Good on these.
So permit count, this,
Pretty downtown would be.
when we're talking about permit counts, this came up as far as businesses and their employee parking. But currently, if you're parking in, if you have a permit, you can put like, say if Caroline has one for her employees, she can put 2 license plates on 1 vehicle. That does not mean 2 cars can be on 1 permit. That does not mean that 2 people can be there at one time, because then they'll get a ticket.
Right.
What the question that came up was, can there be more license plates per permit? And so that way, if they work out amongst themselves on their shift times, that can accommodate for more employees. They are going to get tickets if there are more than one
I
in
think
the
it's,
lot.
I think it's a good idea. The problem is, I mean, that's gonna be very hard to regulate for a lot of businesses, I think. Cause I mean, a lot of places downtown are small enough where, with the exception of a few here and there, have small enough staffs where like 90% of the time, we're probably all working together. So I think raising the count on that might be something tough.
But it's
Most-
one spot.
Hold on, I would say, I agree with you, but if it's easily executable by the city staff to know, and it's not abused, right? Because my biggest thing would be, I don't want 3 people parking in Dogwood and me not be able to have a spot.
Right.
Because both of my employees have permits and we both park there 9 to 5, like we're not a restaurant, we're not turning over, so I want to make sure 9 to 5 I have a spot.
Yeah.
But if a business is willing to micromanage that and understand that there's a cost if they don't, then let them do it. That's my thought.
So-
Why not? Let them-
I have one thing here.
I mean, I see that. I just think the point is like, it's almost like, I don't know anybody that's gonna be. I think regardless of.
How,
I think there's
how does,
ideas.
how does it work now if a business says, I want to buy a parking space? And they have 1 parking space, they've paid you whatever that fee is, and that goes to the cook, the server, the owner, whoever, whatever. Okay, how does it work if they buy 2 parking places with that same, or 2 tags with that same space? What is the difference in dollars?
Or it's not. So I have 2, my company has 2 spots in Dogwood. We pay $25 for the permits. We have 2 permits.
$25 each.
Each. So we pay $50. So 25 and 25. There's 2 cars on this one and 2 cars on this one. So one is an employee and I think there's only 1 on that. And then the other is me and my wife's car in case I take that car that day. So for us, it's simple, right? But if you have a restaurant and they have 3 shifts, then you can have someone work, or if you have someone that just work weekends, someone just works weekdays, you can have someone coming on Saturday and use, so if you have 3 and they're not there, So my employee and I can both park there, but my wife can't show up when I'm there in her car.
Who monitors that?
With that, my question is,
They scan.
you limit the amount of spaces that you sell a business. I guess what I'm saying is, can't the business buy 5 spaces?
Yeah, of course.
And pay that for all their help, and then there is no confusion.
And so that's where that came up is like, so say a business either, so they've got, like, say it's a restaurant and they have like 30 people who work there, but at any given time, there's only
And
like 10. And so what that request or suggestion was, is instead of buying 30 permits, so 30 times 25 is whatever, a lot, versus a lot more than 30 times 15 or 10. So that's where that came up. Where it could come and be problematic, where you're talking about, is not having a space.
Change.
Yeah, or there's a time when there's multiple cars in there that aren't supposed to be there, and then they're just getting tickets.
Or if.
And so then it's full just with a lot of tickets rather than spaces. I mean,
Standpoint, it's not difficult for the city, it's difficult for the business owner. And the biggest permit holders have already figured it out and set up their systems. So really, we would be, honestly, for the largest permit holders we have, the 3 largest ones, are then gonna be trying to figure out how to rearrange their permits.
So
Would it work
Which is,
if they,
in my opinion, is a good thing. Like, why are we not trying to help the downtown businesses find employee parking that's safer and more secure for them? That's, I mean.
if you're willing to sell more to the business and you're willing to give them a discount, if it is truly a business and you can vet that, could you not sell, 1 to 5 parking places is $25 a piece, 1 to 10 is $15 a piece, 1 to 30 is.
I'd be pissed if I got there and someone was paying $8 for a parking and I'm paying $25 a month and they're in my parking spot. It's lots of starting.
So that's kind of a long-term thing, but that's,
I would be
I mean,
so upset if I knew.
we're gonna keep
But it's the
seeing the
same thing,
employee.
because if there are two tags or 3 tags or 4 tags,
Those cars aren't there at once.
So I hear what you're saying, but I will just like to remind everyone that these conversations have happened a lot.
Thank you, Mark.
And a lot of your points, and well, you've been here, but they have been brought up and discussed, and we've kind of gone through it and voted on it. So a lot of these things, and
The question.
so lack of not enunciating in a offensive way, we've gone over this. I think what we need to concentrate on are the things in a little bit more dialed down way. Whereas if we do have, we've already discussed, yes, parking spaces can have multiple plates on it. Is it wise to have 2 or 4?
2.
Because if we have 4, it's up to the business owner, which I'm fine with. You figure it out. Maybe you only get them for your managers instead of your whole entire staff. Because when your staff comes up to you and there's 7 vehicles per space, and you got everyone parking there and your employees are getting tickets, it's gonna come back on you. Who gets the ticket? The car.
The vehicle, the plate.
But it's on your part. Okay, I want to talk for a minute on this. Right now you can have 2.
Yep.
If they overlap for 5 minutes and they happen to go through those 5 minutes, both of the cars get a ticket, which if I'm the business owner and I'm buying them and I hold the account that has all of my permits that I buy for my employees, all of those come back to my account and I'm responsible for them. The person with the account is responsible. If the employees have worked it out amongst themselves and they're the account holder that holds the permit, then they're responsible. So the question at hand is, do we want to allow one permit that is currently allowed to have 2 car license plates attached to it? Do we want to allow them to have 3 or 4 or 5 license plates attached to that permit? Or do we want to keep it at 2? I think that if we raise it, that's fine. That is to be worked out amongst the businesses and the employees. That could be problematic on that end, but that's their pay to play, basically. You have to figure that out. If that reduces the overall cost of parking enough and they can work it out, then cool. So I kind of want to say, sure, go ahead. It might be problematic on the back end, but that is not the city's problem. If it is problematic, for the user on the back end. We're clear about how these permits work. This is not the public. These are employees, these are businesses buying them. If they can't figure out how to work them, that's their problem. But two, if it's already worked out with two right now, I'm not even sure that we should monkey with that. And I don't think this is a high priority at this very moment.
I think,
there are other
I think I've
things.
heard from enough businesses that adding a third and
Could be
possibly a
good.
fourth would be a recommendation. I mean,
I'm fine with that.
I think from my standpoint, I would like to recommend to city council that they talk about that option of having a third or a fourth. Because I think there's enough restaurants and retail shops. I mean, there are retail shops downstairs downtown that have 3 employees that never see each other.
It's true. There's like the bookstore has one different
I
person
think-
each day of the week. They could have one
I
permit.
think that would highly help that downtown business to have one permit and not have to overlap. And there's not taking extra spaces and they're not paying for things that they're not using.
Okay, so is anyone
Okay,
opposed to
yeah.
you can get it too?
You
Or, I
mean,
mean, I'm sorry.
upping
Is
it.
anyone opposed to up and get from 2?
No,
So everyone would be okay if we proceeded with going to 3 or 4 because it's the permit holder's problem, not ours.
I just have one question. It's not a designated actual, like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't
Okay,
think it was. I just wanted to clarify.
There were designated spots and there are still, if I'm not mistaken, a few.
no,
No,
Okay, yeah, so you just know the tag was part of that.
They're no longer 24/7, 365.
I can tell you the sociology of groups. I park in the same spot every day. the same-
yeah, they also.
Hilarious. People are gonna stay in the same spot.
one more, since we've been working on this employee retention kind of thing. I have one license plate per permit because it is a perk that I pay for their parking and a perk that they can come downtown when they want and park in Dogwood and spend money and enjoy Main Street and they use it and they love it and it is worth every penny of the $25 for them to
You can do
be
that.
amongst their fellow workers on Main. They know people, they spend money.
We do the same thing, but I think the business should be able to make that decision.
Right, I agree, we should be able to make that.
okay, so let's go.
Do but pay by, you do the increments next.
That's what's right next on the.
Last
Okay,
one.
so, well, we got the other ones too.
Do meters. We'll do meters.
Okay, y'all,
Of course they are.
Look at Jamie.
quiet.
Thumbs up to.
Okay. Pay by half hour. This is specifically like when you're on the app or you're in the kiosk. Right now, you can only pay in hour increments and it's like on Main Street, it's $2 an hour. Pay by half hour, it would be $1 per half hour. We heard that a lot at the last meeting. Is anyone, there is potential, financial budgetary concern there, but we don't.
That's the debate. I think everybody wants increments of some kind, right?
I think they're.
Less than
Does anyone not want increments? Okay,
Okay, so then between 15 or 30.
15 minutes would be good, because like some of the merchants I've heard from, I've gone and specifically talked to them. When they have people perusing in their shop, and they just need an extra few minutes to pay, make them pay for a full half hour, is too much. I think if they can pay just an extra $3 or whatever it is for 15-minute increment, they'd be more likely to do that and have a few more minutes to get an extra thing or two rather than a whole half hour. I think that time is a little too much.
We have any idea of what each one might cost?
No, I mean, this one, I felt very comfortable moving into the short term because I think there is a psychological benefit from it where we actually might make more money because people actually will stay.
I agree.
I think that will happen. However, if we do this, I know it could have long-term effects on our revenue model. Are we looking at like 3 months and then go, oh God, we got to pull the reins on this? Although I just don't think it's going to happen, but like, I know I want to be cognizant of that because this is the bigger change to a revenue model than any of the rest of it.
Everyone's, I feel pretty comfortable with it.
Okay,
I say 30. Like if you're running into Rudy's and picking up a repair, you need 30 minutes, not
Half or
15.
15.
or anything, you're picking up a package.
So if we do talk about lowering it to 15, we also probably need to talk a little bit about the first 30 minutes free because that,
Will be 2 15-minute increments.
yeah, but that's, or,
Be a minimum stay. You wouldn't be,
Are we still gonna have?
we could just say you got it, you can't stay shorter than
No.
30 minutes.
Did we talk about?
Then you start getting charged after that. So 45 minutes.
So on the first screen, the set duration would
50.
still come up at 30 minutes.
Right, yeah.
And then after
Then
that.
after that,
45.
15-minute increments, and you pay 50 cents for every.
So the default would be the 30 minutes, which is,
Right.
which is a grace period.
okay, that makes sense.
I like that.
Which I agree with, but I think we need to make that clear that after that, on that 45 minute, you're not getting charged for the 30. I think that first 30 or whatever we agree on, 15 or 30, it needs to be that, because I have a lot of complaints of people, I've heard from people that they, like someone said they were in the parking garage, and you said that, and when they came out, they were like, oh, I thought I got an hour free, but I'm actually.
Okay, so so those are actually,
Conversation.
yeah,
So it's all Main Street, 30 minutes free?
And
Not the side street.
I agree, and I think-
yeah, Main and avenues are all,
I think we should keep
Yeah.
that going.
so let's decide on increment first. So let's say 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Who's for 15 minutes?
15.
1, 2, 3, 3 for 15 minutes?
I don't care. I don't care.
It's easier to come back and visit.
4 for 15, okay, 30 minutes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we're at 30 minutes right now, and then council will make a decision.
Yeah, I don't really
Yeah, blame
care.
city council. please.
Just make sure you let them know that it was.
Yeah,
It's the psychology.
Right out front. It ended at 4:59. I just had to add a whole hour. I'm not saying it now. I can tell you that.
Would you pay for 30, Jerry?
It's 15, no, whether it's 15 or 30, it's gonna change.
It's the psychology of the ability to add,
right. It will help someone stay longer.
Right.
Yes, and buy more, whatever if they're Boston, so. Okay,
okay, the marketing thing? Should we? Probably, I mean,
so we're good on
doing that though.
those middle 3, and we'll come back with you all and be talking through it. and-
Okay,
So one thing I want to talk to this group about, so all the long-term, right, I think really like prioritization of what you'd want and probably think through this a little bit, because I don't know if everyone's gonna be just like today, like this is absolutely my number one thing. Maybe you've discussed a little bit, but the real question I want to ask related to these long-term solutions is, would you do away with the first hour, first 30 minutes free to get one of these, being the first question? The second question, would you be interested in raising your Main Street Municipal Service District tax rate to get one of these? So these are essentially the trade-offs, right? The trade-off considerations.
I might just because I know it's already come up a couple of times about the first hour free versus
Right,
up to first hour free. I think that that's something that,
going away.
yeah,
Yeah.
either free or not.
But making it free, we can't do that right now.
Yeah.
That's off the table at the moment. There's no way we could just say first hour, first 30 minutes are free. What we could do is take away, so you eliminate confusion, but so it's just you come downtown, you pay to park.
can we look at
Something like that.
later the truly 30 minutes or an hour or whatever free, but we need
Need more money.
more data.
Yes,
Well, let's
the data needs to
that.
continue trending up.
Let's look at that, but not for right now.
Okay.
But if you
As
eliminate,
we move forward, are we able to still keep the 30-minute period?
Yeah, we're right now, our par for the course is grace periods are in place and we're not changing them. Unless we hear really strongly that it's way too confusing and we should just,
And what is the verbiage when you park? Is it free or is it grace?
it says, how much time do you want? If you say 30 minutes, it says you're free.
Yeah.
If you say, I'm staying per hour, it says it's $2. So there's no get like, there's confusion from a marketing perspective. The word has gotten out, first hour free, that stuff. But when you actually use the system, it tells you exactly what you're paying.
well, you may be able to please people if you do eliminate the free by saying now we're dropping it to smaller increments that you have to pay.
Right, a lot of these short term, we're hoping will alleviate a lot of ease of use challenges, right? These are our highest priorities from a staff perspective.
What's the difference between a grace period and 30 minutes free? That the same thing? You said it 30.
So in the grace period, it's.
Depends how you hear that, right?
Yeah. But essentially the call, so like if you're parked downtown on Main Street and you check in for a half hour and you're out within a half hour, you're not paying anything. But if you're there for the full time, you're paying $2. You're not paying $1. Yeah, for the hour. So the cost is built in to that hour. So that's where it's grace period. Otherwise, it would be $1.50, no, $1 for the first hour if it's the first 30 minutes.
It's a huge confusion. I personally think.
If you just took all of that grace free and everything and had it 15 minutes, it's 50 cents for every 15 minutes, right?
Yeah, but then you get businesses that are drop off pickup. You have my clients that want to come in and sign something and are
People are going by.
right. You're charging 50 cents extra for a coffee, for an extra, like a sticky bun, you're charging 50 cents for these things that people are coming in and out. And it goes against what we talked about years ago, which was we really just want turnover and more availability, not to charge people to be downtown.
I think we
That's
should
balancing.
not change that right now because we've already made a lot of pretty significant suggestions. And we could make a very good call on that in 6 months from now, 9 months from now, a year from when the parking started. And if we change something like that now, and then we change it again 6 months from now, that's going to be super problematic. So if we leave that particular thing intact for the moment, I think that is what we should do.
To be honest, it's one of the things that people show a lot of mercy toward, like, that are like, a lot of my clients are like, I don't want to come downtown and parking. And I'm like, oh, just come in, check it on the app. I'll have you in and out in 20 minutes. It's going to cost you $0.00. And they're like, oh, so I just have to check in. It's free. I'm like, whatever you need to call it, that's what it is. They love it because now they know there's a parking spot. They can come, they rotate.
Because you're good at explaining to your clients and
Yeah.
customers.
And it's $1, it's an hour free in the garage and the lot. So if you get a spot in Azalea, you could logically go have lunch and get out for free.
But if you were gonna remove it, if you're gonna do some changes anyway, doing some now and doing some 6 months from now, people are gonna go, here we go again.
I don't think we've got clear enough,
Yeah.
consensus on changing anything on
The only
that.
thing we would want to do would be to make it truly free. But we cannot do that without more information on a revenue model. So we need to wait on that before we try to do something like that.
That's good direction.
Is everybody okay with what I just said?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's about the LT.
So what?
The long term. What would,
I
yeah.
agree, but I would definitely like to hear about number one, what's dollars. If there are suggestions on changing them.
Well, that's been a hot topic, so let's talk about that more.
Okay, I'm gonna
Till
talk
5.
about it. I happen to have 2 restaurants. Between 5 and 7, they used to do really good business, you know, the older people eat at 5, they eat at 5:30. Now either they're not showing up or they're waiting till 7, so those 2 hours are dead. So, I mean, if you went back to 5 or 6, but 7 is too late, really, really too late.
One of the things, Jerry, that we heard in the last meeting where we had ample public comment was that if restaurants had approximately 3 seatings in the evening, they now have 2. They had 2 in an evening, they now have 1.25. It really eliminates like a full round of, or severely lessens a full round of seating. I felt that pretty strong.
I will push back because there are some restaurants who are up and who have not had that.
And if I may say something else, for those of you who were not in the previous conversations, the reason why we went and decided to vote on moving it an hour was because there were a lot of restaurant employees that were coming in at 3 o'clock for their pre-shift, and they were staying there 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they were there for the whole night on Main Street, and they didn't worry about parking tickets. Where now, since it was moved down to 7, most people who have to be in at 3 can park on Main Street, but they now need to move off. That was the idea, was they had to move off Main Street for that dinner service. Just saying,
Yeah, it wasn't
one way or
opening,
the other, I'm just saying that
So
was
longer-
why
it wasn't
the
opening
vote
up,
was to change.
it wasn't opening up parking spots, it was keeping employees from parking downtown. Listen, I was abusive of this too. When I first got my first job in insurance, I worked at, what was it, Square Root down there. And I knew if I left work at 3:30 and parked downtown at 3:45 to 4, I wasn't getting a ticket. And I could park because it was 3 hours, and I could park right on Main Street, right outside the restaurant I was working at, and I did it almost every Friday and Saturday.
That's why it was
And
decided to.
if I'm doing it, you know everybody's doing it.
So are you saying don't change it to less?
That's why.
No, I'm just saying that's why.
That's why the reasoning was to keep it at 7, so that it's not abused by employees coming into work, parking. Paying.
They're coming in at, oh,
And then blocking spots from actual, and like Brian said, there's restaurants saying, this is the best thing ever. We're making more money now that.
But the other thing is too, is once again, educating people that want to eat earlier typically are a little bit older crowd. And they have a hard time dealing with the kiosk stuff, so they'd rather either wait or not go.
Or go somewhere else.
But we did hear from the restaurants that it has pushed their dining services, their hours back to 7. So now their rush is not at 6, their rush is at 7. And what that is also causing is that their payroll is now paying for employees to stay later. So that's why there are some restaurants on Main Street that prefer to move it back.
We did hear too that places where people wait to get in, if there's a wait, they are not getting those folks
To stay
waiting.
for drinks.
to stay for drinks beforehand while they're waiting up for their buzzer thing to buzz. Because people don't want to pay for the parking and a drink to wait for a table, to pay for more parking while they're.
So although our idea was in good nature to get spots opening, we're seeing that the repercussion of that. There is a repercussion.
So the reason I just wanted, and the reason we split them into the 2 columns, right, is that we think that we can do column A relatively quickly and with relatively low risks to the ability to pay for the garage, right? And for the ability to manage parking downtown. The second column is much higher risk. And so while I do not want to in any way lessen the concerns that we heard expressed at the meeting last go around, because that was very, very important for all of us to hear. The flip side of that is we also don't want to make a decision on something that's really going to impact revenue.
Yeah.
Quickly and without a real, season of feedback in terms of revenue. Because if it's the wrong decision, it's going to have a bite back impact. It's going to be painful again in the future. And this is not, those restaurants that are suffering. I personally went out with my entire family on Saturday night at 5 o'clock. I did so intentionally. I parked. I happened to park in free parking. I did not pay for parking because I had nowhere to park, but I did it. Because, I care about those restaurants. It was one of the ones that specifically said they, we're losing seating at the front end. Restaurants and the people that are associated with them can begin to have impacts. The validation could potentially offset the impact of paying for parking at 5 o'clock. There are tools in here that would allow business owners to proactively address that without us creating some sort of fundamentally risky financial situation that then comes back and bites us in 8 months. So
I agree. And also we have not been able to do a deep dive on by the hour, correct?
No, I would not feel confident in the deep dive.
And it's still only 3 full months in the slow season.
I haven't seen June yet.
Down the road, possibly even winter and summer hours, but I think it's too early to tell on that. I think we need more time. Personally, did you have time?
Did we talk?
Anecdotally, how many of you would like to move 7 to 6?
I don't know.
I'm not willing to say yet.
On a personal basis, Chris.
Going to a restaurant.
Well, Jerry, we've heard a lot of anecdotal over the last few months, and I think this group doesn't necessarily want to talk about anecdotal stuff anymore. We want to talk about like the nitty gritty and what we can actually do because we've gotten past that.
This is great, I get it. I just want to know how, if there's people that are seriously like, we need to change it now. And
There are people who.
Yeah,
But maybe I missed it in all the parking validation setup. That was the idea where a restaurant It validates someone's parking, and then does the restaurant pay for it, or what?
Yes, restaurant would pay.
But that would be a short-term solution to a long-term concern.
I mean, validation, once we put it in place, can be around forever. And businesses then could use that.
As a,
Because again, I think, you know, that would be the ease and ease of
We
experience.
need a hands up or hands down about.
We're good. We were good on those middle three.
I do think that, I know that earlier, years ago, and you may want to hear this. Years ago, when the whole parking garage and the meters were discussed. It was all about the meters making the income. I have also heard from people who live in city limits say, I would be willing to pay a tax. Now, I know that's a very controversial thing to say, especially because it's only the people in the city that would be responsible for that. But I think we should honestly look at that as a long-term bullet points and ask, put it out there, have a vote for the citizens in the city, which probably won't go through because they don't want to pay for it, but I've heard some people who live in the city and the business owners would be willing to pay a small tax to help with some of these other issues.
I think ongoing examining the MSD, the possibility of making the MSD tax different as a part of the revenue model should be examined at least. It should not be ever taken totally off the table.
Although I do not pay a city residence tax, I would be willing to pay a little bit more as a business owner tax to help
Which would be an
with
MSD.
this
tax.
situation.
Do you have something? No,
Thank you
no.
very much.
Hi, Jerry.
Enjoy this.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Time and effort, and hope we come again on this.
In a couple of days.
Great, thank you.
Oh, you said the validation. What else?
I feel really good about the direction we've gotten today.
Make sure.
I, just, Joe Dinan was on the call briefly, but his phone died. So I asked if he had anything to say, and he said $25 citations and 15-minute increments.
Are the kiosks, ADA compliant?
What?
Are the kiosks themselves ADA compliant? Yes, I already asked that.
It's the height and, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the
Green.
screen and,
Yeah.
okay, just curious.
You know, Park Mobile sold. So does that affect us in any way?
Not know the answer to that.
And you won't, I looked into it,
Huh?
they're saying right now, no changes, but how do you know what a business,
Itself.
how do you know what a business is gonna do 2 years from now?
I'm curious.
But it's a nationally wide.
I would ask one more thing. As we look at going into past Christmas,
BMW.
if we see drastic changes in January, February, March, I would ask that we be ready to make very quick changes of something at that time for those winter months to combat that
We'll
business.
continue to come back here and keep.
So look at like a.
hitting.
Yeah, but I don't want to be like, I know we don't have a full year, but if it like tanks in the first 2 weeks of January, because usually that's pretty busy, like we need to make accommodations immediately for that in the winter time.
Do you think
I don't,
from,
that's hard to.
well, but from your, yeah, but from like sales, would you be able to know like in December if it's gonna be bad in January or it's just totally off different? Like if it's.
But I would know in the first 2 weeks of January unless it were extreme weather.
But in the winter, you have locals and locals don't want to come uptown anymore.
That's why we're talking about this right now.
What do you do then?
Is there anything else that anyone must add? Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for those of you who have been here for the long run and talked about this for the last 6 years. I appreciate your time. Meeting is adjourned.
Let's go.